Welcome to part 3 of our class, The Importance of Ethics. There are 6 qualities of transformational leaders, leaders that move organizations through change. They have a vision for where they want to go. They have lots of energy to get there. They use symbolism to embody the focus of the vision. They empower people to get there and to achieve the vision. They provide intellectual stimulation through positive communication, feedback, feed forward. And they have integrity by building an ethical culture within the organization. When we think about ethics, we can go back to one of the originators of ethics, Aristotle, the ancient Greeks. And Aristotle had 6 elements of what he called the whole human life. The first element was obviously physical health. The second was wealth, which included property. The third was friendship or positive relationship with friends. The fourth is moral virtue, and this is where ethics arise. The fifth is intellectual virtue, which is the right thought. And then the sixth is good fortune or luck, which enables you to achieve what you want to achieve within your lifetime. There are many important influences on character formation, and character formation can be based on some of what Aristotle came up with. And we can see that his elements of a good life and of a whole person are the result of some of these influences. The first influence is associations. Who are our friends, our family? Who are our role models in life? Well, what books do we read? What ideas do we take on? They can expand or limit our potential. They can also give us imaginary pathways that can be realized. They can help us create visions. And finally, self-concept. How do we think about ourselves? And one of the things that we do as humans is we act to maintain our self-concept to be consistent with who we think we really are. And so many of our behaviors can be attributed to the fact that we like to reduce something called cognitive dissonance and maintain our idea of self-concept. Along with this is something called levels of morality, and you can see the example in your text of Heinz and the drug. And a person's level of morality determines whether people will trust and respect the leader. And so this also determines the basis on which an individual makes ethical decisions. And there are 6 stages, 1 and 2, which are pre-conventional, 3 and 4, which are conventional, and 5 and 6, which are post-conventional. I'd like to note here that there are really, truly very few people who are at stages 5 and 6. And the vast majority of people are at stage 4, maybe bumping into stage 5. But there are really, truly very few people at the 5 and 6 level. People will say that they are, but then what reveals where their true level is their actions and their ethical decisions when they're not under scrutiny and are not being assessed in their day-to-day lives. The most mentioned values that people have when they think about an ethical leader are honesty and respect, service, excellence, and integrity. And ethical values build integrity, and they can support all of these. And the ethical leader focuses on the well-being of 4 groups of people: customers, employees, stakeholders, and the community. And stakeholders include the natural environment. And so what we look at is a much wider perspective, and this is primarily a business-oriented text, but we're going to expand it for environmental leadership and say that the stakeholders are both the local and the global environments in which the organization operates. Caring leaders always are ethical in some respect because they have 6 values which are positive ethical values. They tend to be honest, they tend to be considerate of others, they take responsibility for their actions and the actions of others, they are persistent in obtaining their outcomes, they demonstrate excellence in performance, and they go along to go along with persistence is commitment to achieving what they need to achieve. There are different types of values out there that people hold. This is sort of a taxonomy of the value types within any organization, and especially within a society as a whole. And we can see that different leaders will hold one of these types of values or set of values that falls within one of these 6 categories. First is theoretical values. The primary interest for those who are value-oriented around theoretical values is in the discovery of truth. These folks prefer a cognitive, rational approach, and they like to order and systematize knowledge. An example is Albert Einstein. The folks whose values fall in the economic realm, an example here is Andrew Carnegie, have a primary interest in finding what's useful. They're often enterprising and concerned with efficiency and making the best use out of what is available. They tend to be more interested in financial worth than political or social worth, and this is where a lot of the business leaders fall. Their primary set of their value orientation is around economics. They want a practical education. In fact, too much education can be a detriment because it emphasizes a different set of values, as we saw before. Highly educated folks would tend to be more have a more theoretical value basis. Aesthetic values are those that are oriented around beauty, what is beautiful and considered desirable. An example is Leonardo da Vinci, who produced many works of art and many sculptures. These folks receive the highest satisfaction from harmony and beauty. They feel life is to be enjoyed for its own sake, not for any particular usefulness or the amassing of wealth or the gathering of knowledge. It's to be enjoyed just because it's life. And they're interested in people, but not necessarily their welfare, just as a source of harmony and beauty. And these folks tend to be a little bit more individualistic. People who have a social orientation to their values tend to be those who are involved with others. An example here is Jane Addams. You can read about her in the text. Love is their highest value. They really are kind and sympathetic, helpful to others. We think of Mother Teresa here. Others are people, not tools to be used. Efficiency is not a concern. It's concerned with their welfare and helping other people. And they tend to be very unselfish, and what is known as a high level of compassion for others. Those with political values, on the other hand, are a really different breed of cat. They're interested in gaining power and influence over others. They want to exercise authority and they want to be in charge. And we find these folks who gravitating towards government and in some cases military positions. You'll see that the exercise of power and authority is a primary concern, and their value orientation is around the exercise of power and authority. Finally, there's religious values. Again, Mother Teresa is kind of a crossover here. She really is both a concern for others as well as religious values. But religious values are about transcendence and spiritual peace through the practice of religion. And then they focus on events and people and experiences in the world that are grounded in the practices of their particular religion. The character development of leaders is very important because once we understand what a leader's value orientation is, we can focus on becoming a little bit more well-rounded. And an approach to doing this is the 7 habits. In fact, there is a separate 7 habits class out there, and I highly recommend that you do it. It's a little bit pricey. It's a 3-day class, but it's well worth it. And over time, as you develop these habits, you'll find yourself being more effective in different realms of your life, as well as being more balanced. If you've neglected values in more and more areas, you might find yourself shifting back so that you pay attention to different parts of your life that are just as important as others. Habit number 1 is be proactive, which means take personal responsibility. Be a driver and not a drifter, and view yourself as the master of your own destiny. In other words, Go out there and do it. Habit number 2 is begin with the end in mind. This is very powerful. This is what gives leadership visions their power. And this means having a clear picture of what you want to accomplish before you act. In the week 10, we're going to take a look at the monumental video, and this really gives you an idea of exactly how the habit of beginning with the end in mind can work. Habit number 3 is to put first things first, prioritize. And this is where you set your activities that you're going to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in line with your value system, and you gain control of your life. So you're doing what's important to you. You're putting first things first. If your family is important, you put that first. If gaining political power is important, you put that first. You don't waste time on other things that are not important. Habit number 4 is another hallmark of ethical leaders. It's about thinking win-win. It's about finding solutions that work for both leaders and followers. Helping others can let both parties succeed, and treating others how you would like to be treated is one way of helping everyone to succeed, helping everyone to win. In other words, in any given situation, how can both people come out ahead? Habit number 5 is very important. This is about listening. First understand, then seek to be understood. In other words, most folks actually have this reverse. They seek to be understood first, and then they seek to understand. That's a recipe for failure. The idea is to listen first and then communicate your meaning. And it shows humility and respect for others, and yields much more truth and multiplies knowledge, because you're not coming in with an agenda and you're not dominating a conversation. Habit number 6 is synergize and work with others and appreciate diversity. Get diverse viewpoints working together to create something that's greater than the sum of its parts. And so this is about being tolerant and actually encouraging diverse viewpoints and encouraging feedback that may not be in line with what you thought, encouraging sometimes some degree of negative feedback as long as there's a positive aspect to it, but focusing on different solutions and different viewpoints. And finally, habit number 7, sharpen the saw. Renew yourself, continue your education, open yourself to new experiences, and move forward in your life and renew and reinforce your values. Redevelop your mission statement, redevelop your value statements, look at what's really relevant for you right now. In the workplace, the ethical leader can develop a set of work rules, and this actually is a good process for both assessing and implementing work rules in a business or other organization. First of all, the rules or the policies should reflect the ethical ideals of the ownership or the public trust in the case of nonprofits. The policies should be reviewed periodically for needed revisions. They should be few in number. The more you get, the harder it's going to be to make sure that they're relevant. They should be stated clearly and communicated to all employees so that everyone can understand them, and then applied equally to all employees, regardless of level of authority or nature of duties. The idea here is to embed ethical ideals in a way such that they can be internalized by everyone in the organization and they become part of the operating DNA. There are 6 areas in which organizations can establish ethical guidelines. The first is in government relations. The second is in employee relations. The third is in community and environment relations. The fourth is in business relations with customers and within production, within internally to the organization. And finally, in consumer relations, where you're focused on exactly who is using a product and how they're using it, and what the implications are. So businesses are about partners, and business relations are about partnerships, competitors, looking at some of your suppliers, whereas consumer relations are about folks who are using your products or your services. Within organizations, you can really get very complex with organizational ethics, but this really is a very nice set of basic rules or basic policies. And if you have this in place, your organization is going to do fairly well ethically. First of all, obey the law, know it and understand it, know how it applies. Second, tell the truth, even though it may be painful. But at the same time, implement number 3, show respect for people. Also follow the golden rule. And this is the next one is really related to environmental leadership. Above all, do no harm. Practice participation, not paternalism. This means more egalitarian organizations rather than hierarchical. And then always act when you have the responsibility to do so. In fact, we've seen many cases where whistleblowers have actually acted ethically when they felt that they had the responsibility to do so according to their personal values. This is really a nice way of asking yourself questions about any situation that you might find yourself in as a leader. And when you are going to make a decision, or actually you're considering making a decision, you can say, okay, if I were to make this decision, the outcome would be X. So is outcome X, is it the truth? Would outcome X be fair to all concerned? Would outcome X build goodwill and better relationships? And would outcome X be beneficial to all concerned? And so these are really important. They're very straightforward. They're very easy, but it's kind of a very nice, concise set of criteria that you can use, kind of a takeaway from the class, that something you can use on a day-to-day basis in your personal as well as your professional life. This is a sample credo. Credo is actually very important for a sustainable company, because what we find in sustainable companies is that it's more important for them to live their credo and to live their brand and identity than it is for them to be profitable or to grow or to be powerful. So it's really about bringing this into the world in a way that makes sense for their particular organization. A credo could be, we'll be honest and trustworthy in all of our dealings. We will treat every individual with respect and dignity. We'll follow the golden rule in all matters. We'll strive for excellence in all work performed. We'll obey the laws of our land in fact and in spirit. We'll always do the right thing in every situation to the best of our abilities. And if we fail, we will do whatever is needed to make amends. So this is kind of a nice set of ethical criteria. It gives people guidance as to what exactly is necessary. And so this is a very fundamental credo. It can be altered, but this is a good starting point. So if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A thread. Otherwise, we will see you on the class shell.